For this demonstration, I'm going to be demonstrating how to basically start from a recognizable image or from a representational image and then use abstraction to kind of create a composition that has both abstract and representational elements. So I brought back this old piece from the beginning of the semester, which is my trash can alla prima. So this has always kind of been one of those that I've liked it a lot, but I also think it looks like it needs a little extra something. So this is a good time to kind of try to add some abstraction to it or make it a little bit more unique. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get my masking tape, and I'm going to create another mask just like I had on my two silhouette portraits, and I'm going to cut out a mask for the background. So I'm going to basically tape the whole thing off, then using my craft knife cut along the contour of my shadow and then the outer contour of my trash can. I'm going to leave those covered, but I'm going to peel off the mask to reveal the background so that I can activate the background while the figure and the shadow are protected. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, this is my trash can after I masked it, cut along the outer contour of the shadow and the trash can. And then once I had that cut, I went ahead and peeled away all of the background, leaving the trash can covered, but the background exposed. So the next step in the process is going to be something that you've probably seen on YouTube a ton or on social media called hydro dipping. This is a process where we have a tray of water or some kind of large Tupperware, and you spray it with spray paint, and the spray paint covers the surface of the water. It kind of creates almost like this like a film over the surface of the water, and then we dip objects, or in this case a canvas, into that to kind of create like a marble technique in the background. This is kind of an experimental process for me personally, so I have done it on other things, but I haven't done it on canvas before. So I'm going to give it a test try here, and the theory with this one is that we can actually protect the areas underneath the masking tape while exposing the background to that kind of marbling technique. So I'm going to go ahead and spray the water surface, and I'll record the kind of dipping process, and we'll see if it was a success. And if not, we'll try again. This is a kind of cheap tray that I got at the Container Store off of 410 here in San Antonio. You can also buy kind of like a bigger Tupperware sheet, as long as we have enough water that we can dip our piece in, and then kind of clear away the surface before we pull it out. I think we'll be in good shape. The benefit of working with that kind of unmounted canvas is that we're not getting any kind of wood frame wet or anything like that. We're simply soaking the canvas. One way we can go about this is by kind of creating a little bit of structure. So what I did again, I had some kind of cardboard, some corrugated cardboard from some moving boxes that I had. So I mounted it on there to kind of give me some rigidity. You can do it the same way. Get a piece of cardboard, tape your piece to it, and then do a quick dip. All right, y'all, for this part of the process, since we are submerging our canvas into the spray paint, we don't want to get spray paint on our hands, so I do recommend getting some, like a box of nitrile gloves, or even if you want to just get some dishwashing gloves. This will help you keep the lacquer off your hands and having to use chemicals to clean up your hands afterwards. So let's go ahead and dip it. We're going to start it off at a 45-degree angle, and we're going to dip it from front to back, or back to front. And then we're just going to push it underwater. And that's the result. It looks pretty gross, so we're going to let that dry. And then once that's dry, then we're going to go ahead and pull off the mask on our trash can, and we'll see if this was a success. This is the finished product. It came out this way probably after about, let's say, 2 or 3 hours after sitting actually on the canvas. I think the reason it took so long to dry was because we did have to submerge it in water, and all that water was sitting on the surface. We don't want to disturb the surface to allow it to dry and kind of marble on its own and really let that spray paint adhere. So just moving forward, I'd say a couple things that I would recommend would be, my mistake was to actually, whenever I put the piece in the water. I accidentally kind of pushed down a little too far, and then my piece touched the bottom of my Tupperware container. So if it's possible, I would say maybe get a deeper container. You can get like a 5 gallon bucket at Home Depot or Lowe's for like $5 if you really want to go for this process. It is super risky, semi rewarding. I'm not 100% happy with the results of this piece, but it did work to a degree. In that you can really only control it to a certain point, right? And the results that came out look pretty good. For me to go in and try to paint that by hand would have taken me a lot longer for sure. So it was a fast process, risky, semi-rewarding. Try to do a little bit of research and try to see if you can catch an ear for what some people's tips are in doing this kind of hydro dip process. It's definitely tricky, harder than it looks. And try not to put too much spray paint on there. I think that's where I kind of made a mistake. Is I think I might have put too much on there, and that's kind of why it looks super globby whenever I pulled it up out of the bin there. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Like I said, watch some videos. Color choice is really important with this one. I think the colors that I did choose look very interesting. At the same time, I feel like they kind of clash a little bit with my shadow. If I were to turn this into a black and white image, I think some of the darkest values that I have in my marbling do look very similar to my shadow, so it's kind of wonky, a little funny looking. I think if I would have chosen maybe slightly lighter colors or maybe even a darker color than my my middle value there in my drop shadow, it might have looked a little bit better, but I'm happy with it. One little thing that I did notice was that because of the amount of water that is used in this process, that some of the paint did seep up underneath the tape there a tiny bit, and it ended up kind of working out in a place where it kind of works with the composition. Just know that the accidents can happen with this process. Again, like I said, kind of like a high risk situation. One of the things that I would recommend is if you do want to go this route, that you do it kind of in the stage where your painting maybe still is developing. Like if you're at the part where you've rendered your contours, maybe have your shadow and highlight shapes rendered, I would go ahead and do it at that point versus trying this marbling process on a completely finished painting that you could potentially ruin, right? So if there's a chance that you're going to try this process out again, do it in the middle. That'll allow you to still kind of go back over top and kind of make any corrections and fix any mistakes before the process is gotten so far along that the painting is 100% finished and then you end up ruining a painting, right? So better to backtrack to like the middle step or the contour phase, or still be able to fix problems rather than ruin a finished product right at the end. So that was the hydro dip process. Again, how this ties back into our project. We have a representational object, and then we have kind of an abstracted background, kind of making that contrast of imagery